And I'll put that in chat too, so do a CYA.
Hey, Jonathan, good to see you joining us.
Hello.
Chris, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
All right, I'm gonna give it a minute or two, just for a couple people if they're straggling in before we get
Hello,
started.
guys.
Hello, is that Jose?
Hello,
I think.
Jose, Naomi, welcome.
I'm around here.
Well, we have 41 people registered, so should be an interesting meeting.
If they all show up.
Well,
I think
should
most.
we, should we have a pool? How many actually show up? I take 38.
That's a good one.
What's the prize?
The
It's a
bridge.
gentleman's pool. It's the gentleman's pool. Hello, Kim.
Hi there.
We're giving it a few more minutes. We've got 41 people registered and only 16 are signed in, so.
Well, it's only 6:01, so I think it's fair to, say
Yes.
we were just very prompt.
Yes. Hey, Rod.
Much appreciated.
Hey all. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Rod, thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Make it a regular, will you?
I'm a trying, Troop D. I'm trying. Life just gets in the way sometimes.
Oh, I know. I know. I appreciate you guys showing up. Hey, Matt, it's been a while.
I thought I was gonna slip by without getting any heat.
Sorry.
Just trying to stay quiet.
Well, you're staying really still in your picture.
Very hard. I do this all day.
It's your glamour shot, your work glamour shot.
He has all these.
Hey, Amanda.
Welcome, folks. The meeting is being recorded. We're just waiting for some folks. Hey.
Oh, right here.
What do you say, James? Another minute or
Yep.
so?
Yeah, no, I think we're ready to go because I do want to keep this meeting to just an hour.
Yep.
It's important to note that we're at the beginning of this very important process. So there'll be other meetings. We'll make sure everyone gets their questions asked and answered. But I do upfront want to set some guidelines or ground rules. Definitely an effort to keep this meeting at an hour. As Troop D mentioned, this meeting's going to be recorded and will be posted later on our YouTube channel. As means of introduction, my name is James Bresniak. I am one of the Sunnyside PCD co-chairs along with Bill Hare, who's also on the call. And we're happy to welcome CRL to present once again their plans for the Fox Park development. And in a little bit, I'll allow them to introduce themselves. The presentation that we're going to see is similar to one that we've seen before. We do have great attendance on this call today, so I think it's really good that we'll go through the presentation again. But I would ask CRL to go through it as quick as possible, and then we'll circle back with questions as needed. There's a couple points, as you'll see in the presentation, that are going to be areas of focus. The one that I'll bring up or highlight is the potential for a bridge, a 47th Avenue bridge that would cross from the Fox Park development into Sunnyside. there's a couple proposals. There's also a tunnel under I-70 that would go into Globeville, as well as a proposal for potentially an extension of Huron Street off of Fox. Those are the three alternatives that are on the table at the moment. And recently, the bridge has gained a little bit of steam. And obviously, that one would have a direct impact on the residents and businesses of Sunnyside. So we'll definitely have quite a bit of conversation on that. I think we're also welcoming Chris Nevitt from the city. And I don't know, is anyone else joining you, Chris, from as a representative from the city?
I don't know, but I'm happy to be the city.
Well, I do see Amanda Sandoval, our D1 councilwoman on the call. So welcome, Amanda.
Hey, we
And
do
with
have
that-
Tracy Huggins of Dura on here as well in case questions
great.
around TIF pop up. Thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome, Tracy. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bill for a couple of comments, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Bill.
My comments are very quick. I just want to stress that the reason for this call is really a reset. There's really not going to be much new in this call. But the last time Fox Park presented, we were surprised by the fact that the 47th Street Bridge coming into Sunnyside was back on the agenda as potentially a multimodal bridge. It had long ago been proposed, but during the next step study, and at what we thought was the conclusion of the next step study, it had been set aside in favor of a tunnel under Highway 70. It was just in the last presentation that Fox Park had the pleasure of not quite realizing how we were going to react to the fact that it was there. And so this is really a restart. And I want everybody on the call, those of you in Sunnyside, to realize that as co-chairs of PCD, James and I consider this just the start of the process. And what I mean by process is the engagement of the community and the working side by side with the city and the developer on vetting of the bridge and how Sunnyside feels about that and what their input to the process is. So please don't feel as though just because this is an hour-long meeting, you're not going to get additional opportunities to weigh in. This isn't going to be settled quickly. It's going to be settled over a number of months, and we will participate during that time, and we will work vigorously to bring everybody in Sunnyside into it. So, James, all
Thanks,
yours.
Bill.
Yeah, and
So-
James, if I could,
Sure.
you don't mind.
Go for it.
I would just like to add, you were saying the CRL presentation, and I would just like to rectify. This is something that before we put together this call, and the last call we did this is us Fox Park developers reaching out to the neighbors, and we have consultants in our team. As everybody that is a developer has consultants, we have Triba, we have CRL, and we have other consultants, engineering consultants that will probably be joining the next couple of meetings if necessary, that have been collaborating with the city and Dura and everybody around the process. But I just want to be really clear about this. This is us, Fox Park, with Sunnyside, our neighbors, working through this, understanding this, and having the city come and present this is I don't know if you remember our last meeting. One of the commitments that especially I made was that we will take a step back and we will address this thing. We will address this thing that is the bridge, and we did that. We integrated the process in our development agreement of how the northern connection is going to come about. We integrated specific wording to it that we will get to on how the process will have to come through, and of course integrating the whole thing about Sunnyside and us working together on how we're going to get to this conclusion, and not just a city-driven conclusion. So I just want to make that clear that we understood the points, we understood the confusion, and we are working to make that go away together. So that's all.
Okay, thank you for that, Jose. And I, that as we go through this and as people speak, I would like them to state who they are, who they work for, what their stake is in this, because I myself have become confused as to who each of the players are and what their stake is. So if that could be, to your point, Jose, if that could be clarified as people speak, I think that would be very helpful. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to the presenters now. I'm going to mute everyone. I would ask that we get through the presentation before anyone speak up with questions or comments. So we'll go through it as quick as possible and then circle back. And then once it does get time to get to the Q&A session, I'm going to ask that people either raise their hand on Zoom or put their question in the chat. For those on the phone or unable to do that, we'll also get to a point where I'll ask others who might want to speak to notify me, and I'll call on those folks. But let's try and keep the questions and comments to about 2 minutes. There's a lot of people who want to speak. Let's try and keep it to 2 minutes. And I do have my mute button, so if anything starts to get out of hand, I will start to mute. I'm warning everyone ahead of time. I know this is a passionate topic, but we want to be professional, we want to be respectful, and we want everyone's voice to be heard. So with that, go ahead, Manuel. I assume you're leading us through the presentation.
Yes. Hi, James and Bill, and thank you for the introduction. As Jose said, and as you asked for, I'm from the beta development group that is developing Fox Park. So I'm gonna go through the presentation a little quicker than the last time. I'm gonna skip the offsites just to come back to them at the end, because I know that's the main topic that we want to discuss tonight. So I'm just gonna go through all of the rest of the stuff and then come back to that part, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so as you all know, our development is located in the Global neighborhood. It's a 41-acre site located at the former Denver Post printing plant. This is where the site is located within Global, but really, really close to Sunnyside. And our development is broken down into 4 phases. These 4 phases are expected to be built in a 10-year period. And but we're looking forward to start the first phase at the beginning of next year. So over the last year, we have met with a lot of neighborhood groups and important people that live around the development. And we have had over 20 meetings with Global First, the GS Coalition, the Sunnyside United Neighbors, the North Denver Business Association, and other immediate neighborhood stakeholders. And the point of these meetings was to transmit what we wanted to do for the development, but also to listen to the concerns, needs, and ideas from our neighbors that could help do the development a bigger and better thing. So after those meetings, we came up with some community commitments. The first one is the site revitalization. As of right now, the land is vacant, and we have some break-ins going on every day. People break in to steal some copper or just to do some criminal activity or drug use. And we want to change this and transform this place into a place of gathering where friends, families, and people come around and have fun and have culture, entertainment, retail, and open spaces to be at. I'm gonna skip the offsites for right now. We're also having a global tree canopy proposal in which we will be supporting with a 60 tree donation per year over a 10-year period. And we will also be throwing a yearly event to plant trees within the neighborhood. And we'll be supporting also numerous youth programs of the global community over a 10-year period also, in which we'll be donating $12,000 per year. Going on into our housing and economic benefits proposal. This is a four-leg proposal. And the first one is this one. The first one is the home ownership affordable housing. So we heard from the community that one of the main concerns was displacement. So we created this idea of a housing fund in partnership with Habitat for Humanity, in which we are funding $4.25 million over the next 7 years. And this funding will be directed to create perpetual affordability of houses. And the purpose would be for Habitat to buy houses and then write down the price of these units to make them affordable for an 80% AMI for families in the community. Then these units would be transferred to the Tierra Colectiva Land Trust so that they are perpetually affordable. The second leg of the stool is the housing assistance program. And this program is with partnership with Birdseed Collective, which is a long-known group in the global neighborhood. And the purpose of this program is to assist people with their property tax, with their rental, with the rent payments, with the down payments of their new rents, or even having housing rehab projects with Habitat for Humanity and with Brothers Redevelopment. Also with Birdseed Collective, we'll have some economic opportunity programs. So we will have this cool asset listing program in which it'll serve like a resource guide for anyone needing any kind of services from the global neighborhood. But we're also doing some community training and wealth opportunities for the community. For the housing assistance program and this part of the economic opportunity program, we are funding $2 million over the next 7 years. Also on this part of the stool, the World Trade Center is going to be the anchor tenant for Fox Park. And the World Trade Center has many programs that help small businesses connect with international companies all around the world. And they have also some really cool immigrant and refugee workforce programs that they want to implement within the community. And last but not least, we also have the on-site affordable rental units because the site is located near a transit station. It makes sense to have affordable units within the site. So 7% of all of the units that we're building in Fox Park will be affordable. 25% of those will be at 60% AMI and 75% of those will be at 80% AMI. And these units will reflect the market mix and will have a 99-year covenant. Last week, we signed a community benefits agreement with Global First and the GES Coalition, in which we included all of these programs so that we are fully committed to do them with the community. I'm gonna go back to the offsites because that's the main topic that we want to talk about. So on the last meeting that we had, there was some concerns regarding the the outside improvements for the development, and especially about choosing to build a bridge to Sunnyside without having an extensive discussion with the community. But as Jose was mentioning, we committed that we would listen to these concerns, and we and the city worked together to take a step back. And then we are proposing the following. We are committed on designing 4 infrastructure improvements. The first one is the 38th Avenue roundabouts, which are some roundabouts here in the intersection of 38 and I-25. Then we're also designing a northern connection that could be either the 47th Avenue Bridge or the I-70 tunnel. We're also designing the Huron Street Bridge, which is an overpass that goes from Huron on top of 38. And then last, we are improving the 44th Avenue bridge. We're improving it with some signals and making it more pedestrian and bike friendly. But then, because of the concerns that we heard, we included it in our development agreement that we would construct the 38th Avenue and I-25 improvement, and we would, and we would construct one of these 3 full modal connections. So the full modal connections are either the I-70 tunnel, the 47th Avenue Bridge, or the Huron overpass over 38th Street. Before the decision is made, and I want to point out that the decision of which improvement we are constructing is made by the city. First, we agreed, and this is part of our development agreement, that we would conduct a feasibility study that includes some parameters for the city to decide based upon. These parameters include first, of course, the most important, the community input, then also the geographical scope, the budget for each improvement and timeline for each improvement, the process for design of each improvement, the opinion of related parties such as CDOT or the railroads or even Excel, and as well as other contingencies. I just also want to transmit to everyone that our TIF approval doesn't entitle anyone to do a full modal connection. It just gives us the ability to design the improvements and to talk about the feasibility of one of the full modal connections. I just wanted to make that a really important point, because it's not like if our TIF is approved, then the bridge is decided to be built. That's not what is happening. What we're doing is conducting a feasibility study and a community process to decide which option is the better one, and the city will be the one deciding which one is it. I think that's it. I would open the Q&A.
Were you gonna go back to that other slide, Manuel, the one that you skipped over, or was that this one here? Okay,
It was this one here.
okay, just wanted to make sure.
Be clear, also, this drawing that we see here, we updated this drawing. This came from the Next Step study that was posted online, and this is the most updated version of the improvements, proposed improvements.
Okay. All right, like I said, and thank you very much for that. If you want to raise your hand.
Sorry, I forgot. Kathleen Flogler from Tribe Architects, which is our urban planner and developer. She has also some things to share with the community about the trips and why are we needing to build and design this infrastructure requirements. So I would just pass it to Kathleen before jumping to the Q&A.
Okay, go ahead, Kathleen.
Sure. Thanks, Manuel. So yeah, what I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you all about some of the trips and TDM strategies and how we're really thinking about multimodal connections on the 41 acres of Fox Park and on the offsites. So I think everybody is aware that the city has, in addition to sort of this kind of trip regime that we have in this neighborhood, the city has also adopted kind of citywide rules that require really significant transportation demand management strategies that are not only applied to other places in the city, but are also kind of much more aggressively applied in this particular neighborhood. So, you know, we are fully committed to reducing the number of trips we create as much as we possibly can, right? And I mean, even beyond it just being a city requirement, we also think it's just better urban design and better for the future of our city to really promote and give people opportunities to bike and walk and live in a really well-balanced mixed use environment where we can easily get to transit and really not rely on our cars anymore. So we're fully committed in this project to designing the streets and the infrastructure and creating the balance of uses that really start to create that kind of growth and development pattern. So for instance, I think kind of case in point, our full development at full build out would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 44 to 45,000 trips. And with through working with the city and working with our kind of mobility analysis and applying some really aggressive TDM strategies, we've actually been able to almost cut that number of trips in half. And we're now down to generating, you know, 25,000 trips in total. So we've been working really hard to really lower our number of vehicle trips. And we've done that in a variety of ways through really great multimodal street connections, right? So all of our streets have sidewalks that are actually slightly wider than the average requirements. We have bike lanes on all of our streets. We're committed to restoring the tree canopy. And so our streets are really comfortable places to walk. We're also have really aggressive parking ratios as well. So that's also meant to help kind of discourage people from driving their cars. So those are just a few of the strategies that we're implementing and are fully committed to in this project. I think one of the other things too, just in how that kind of translates to the design of, you know, any bridge or tunnel connection, right? It could apply to the 47th Avenue Bridge, I-70 tunnel, or even the Huron Bridge, is, you know, really focusing on not creating opportunities for fast moving traffic or really even promoting vehicular traffic. So as outlined in the next step study currently, right, the 47th Avenue Bridge would be a 2-lane street. So two 10 to 11 foot lanes with a tree lawn, a sidewalk, and bike lane. So we're really talking about a connection that would be a local street and have a 20 to 30 mile an hour speed limit on the road. So our intention is not to create in any condition in a cut through or any kind of major artery or piece of infrastructure. We don't want that running through Fox Park, and we know you guys don't want that moving through your neighborhood. So I think what we really want to emphasize is that we're prioritizing bikes and people, and we feel we need to accommodate cars because cars are still a part of our city and a part of kind of the urban livelihood, but our attention is really on creating a great urban and public realm. So I'm happy to answer more questions if people have want to know more about some of the TDM and the design strategies, but really just wanted to make sure we were able to make that point and reiterate how much of a priority it is to us. So Manuel, I think I'll pass it back to you if you want to say anything more about the community outreach process, or we can open it up for questions.
Well, we have some ideas for the community process that we have included on the development agreement. I don't know if you want me to say them, and then we can discuss and listen to more ideas. But it's just a few points that we have thought about.
I think that that's a very important goal of this meeting, is to understand what kind of community outreach, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that and what you've come up with. So let's spend some time on that now.
Okay, yeah. So we've been studying the community outreach that Sunny and council member Sandoval did regarding the overlay district, and think that there are some good ideas that could help us do this outreach. So basically, the idea is to include English and Spanish for our outreach and look at a fairly large area, potentially from Pecos on the west to 48th Avenue on the north, to 38th on the east, and the southern boundary working east to the west on the rail yards on I-25 and 38. We would start by mailing the property owners and flyering this whole area so that people are aware of the process and can get more information and get involved. We would build a website so people can review information even if they don't come to the meetings. We would also reach out to Sunny, Global First, and the GS Coalition and council offices to help get the word out about the process. And we would hold 2 to 3 town hall meetings to discuss the proposals, and would provide notice of those meetings through flyering and mailing. And we would conduct at least one survey to get more information from the neighbors. But of course, these are just our ideas. We are open to feedback and for more ideas, because I think we can for sure find the best way to have a community process and find the best solution.
Manuel, did you say the furthest western boundary would be Pecos?
Pecos on the west, 48th Avenue on the north, 38th on the east, and
Why,
on the
why
southern
would,
boundary,
why would it,
yeah.
why would Pecos, I don't think that's far enough west based on where this potential bridge would land. Why was it decided Pecos would be the western border?
No, we haven't decided anything. This
Okay.
is just our proposal,
Okay,
and nothing is decided.
okay. That is
This is
certainly
just our
noted.
proposal,
There'd
and
be
if we have
concerns
to
that that's not
increase
far
the
enough.
area, we can for sure increase.
Okay, yep, that's good. And then before we get to that question, just one other area of clarification. Who would be conducting the town hall meetings? Who would be in attendance, and who would be conducting those meetings?
Us as developers, and this is part of our development agreement. We would be the ones conducting them along with you.
I feel as though there'd have to be more representation from the decision makers of the city, that being Dottie. And
They will be part of it, but we would be in
Okay.
charge of organizing the town halls, emailing, flyering, everything,
Okay.
but they would be part of the meetings as well.
Okay, that's good to hear. Troop D, I saw your hand.
James, we're just
yeah.
taking from our other experiences with the other RNOs that we worked with, and working, like I said before, as neighbors and collaborating to put together something and then presenting and informing the authorities or whoever is involved in the process, but letting us work as neighbors was very productive in our other ventures.
Okay. And we would appreciate utilizing your monetary resources and such to get the flyering done, the mailers done, setting up the website, your IT experts to do so. But we definitely want the people making the decisions to be involved in that and hear what the community has to say.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
that's extremely
and there could be
important that
like
we get the
internal
correct
discussions.
representation.
Yeah, we can have internal discussions, and then when we bring the city and present a unified bullets, and then have them understand where we are and why we're there with precise data, and then they can be involved in all of them. Or I mean, that's something that this is, like Manuel said, this is our proposal, but I think you guys understanding our proposal and together building a proposal with you and us, and that's our and that's how we work.
Okay, I like that. Let's get, we're already at 6:35, time flies. Let's get some questions, and you can type your questions into the chat, and I'll be happy to monitor chat and represent you on that. Or just, if we can do it in an orderly fashion, let's try and just speak up as needed, or certainly you can raise your hand and I'll go ahead and call on you. And for those folks on the phone, we'll give you an opportunity as well to speak. Keith, it sounds like you're ready to go. If you'd like to speak, go ahead.
Are you speaking to me? That's Keith Howard.
Yes, I am.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought I was probably muted. Well, a great many questions occur to me, and I'll mention only a few. In the most recent, the remarks in the last few sentences were concerned communication between the city and the development group and citizens. I think it's also important that neighbors be able to hear neighbors, and that consequently outreach meetings need to be held in person. We just have to face the fact, I think, that Zoom meetings do not serve some of the essential political functions of allowing neighbors to influence each other. So I won't bang on this subject, but I would like to say that at least some of these meetings should be held in person. I think I'm not alone in wondering, what is the entire scale of the project that is being proposed? The number of dwellings at eventual build out in all, the number of square feet of commercial space in total at build out. And I'm curious to know how much in the way of a single-use building, such I'm concerned about this World Trade Center, that it may be a building that the city and the neighbors and the taxpayers are going to invest a good deal of money in one way or another, which may be a single-use building. And after the World Trade Center perhaps goes away, it will not have value. The other thing is that I would just mention, I'd like to understand to what extent the development that's being proposed takes advantage of the actual assets of the site, which are the rail transit, which is the rail transit access, which makes it ideal for concentration of employment. To what extent is this potential going to be exploited by the proposed development? And then I will just put those questions into the air for future discussion, I hope. Thank you, James.
You're muted, James.
Sorry, my son was yelling. I muted myself. Manuel, do you want to talk to the total build out and scale that the development will eventually achieve?
Yeah, so we have around 2 million square feet of office space, around 200,000 square feet of retail, and 3,360 rental units. We're also planning for 2 hotels and some entertainment and cultural venues, as well as 14 acres of parks. On the other side, you were asking about the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center has a lease of 50 years. So, and it could be renewed. So I don't think they're just gonna leave and stop being the key anchor here. And the other question, could you please remind me what was the last question?
meetings held in person.
Yeah, I agree that we love it, meetings in person. We agree with you in that one.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful.
I think Keith's final question was, and if I understood it correctly, which I think a lot of people on this call would be interested in hearing about, is so we talk about trips in and out of that the Fox Park development, and we talk about vehicular trips in and out. What about the existing light rail stop that, by my observation, is very much underutilized at the moment? How will this development activate that, where we use less vehicular trips in and out of that area, but encourage folks to move there who work downtown and would be interested in utilizing the light rail from the 41st and Fox station? What can this development do to encourage that? Less vehicles, more public transportation in and out. And Chris, if you have any questions on that, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say as well.
I can give you our view, and then I'll let Chris answer this. I can give you our view of how we saw that station. I think it's a great gift to have that station there, and it's underutilized, of course, James. And what Kathleen said before about from Triba about having 40,000 trips created and turned down to 25,000 more or less. That's basically thanks to that station and the multimodal uses that we're looking for, the TDMs that we're looking for. So we think that if it wasn't for that station, development wouldn't be happening here. And I think it's part of a city program for development to happen, and that's why they put that station there. So we, as a developer, that's how we saw it. I don't know if Chris wants to talk about the big picture about what's going on around there, but that's how we saw it.
Chris is a common name, so
Chris.
Chris Nevitt, I think we're talking
Okay.
you. I don't
Okay.
see another Chris Otter.
okay, I'll consider myself Chris then. Yeah, the station is kind of a funny station. It was constructed with that big parking lot around it, but you know, how many people are driving to that station to then take the train somewhere? Not a lot. And so, you know, we really want to amp up the use of the station by development in the Fox Island area. And Kathleen Fogler referred to transportation demand management, TDM, as something that's, you know, they're really focused on. And the city already has policies to make other developers focus on. In fact, Fox Island was really a pioneer in transportation demand management. So we started doing transportation demand management on Fox Island, and now it's a citywide program. And central to that is development taking an active role in facilitating the use of transit by their tenants and residents. So, you know, buying eco passes, subsidizing eco passes, creating a transit program, being part of a transportation management association, so that as many people as possible are given the tools and the orientation towards those transit assets, because those transit assets are incredibly expensive and we all paid for them. We want to get the maximum use out of that. And so that's achieved by having Fox Park, who's been a great partner in this regard, but other developers too, to really orient their tenants and their residents to the transit, and putting their money where their mouth is. So we expect to see that station get a ton more use as development happens.
And I hope that you took note of that, Manuel, because it can't just be speak on that. We need to see eco passes.
Yep.
We need to see subsidized passes. We need to see incentives for residents who move into Fox Park to use that and not a bridge or a tunnel. We need to see them use the public transportation. Garrett, you have your hand raised?
Yeah. See, I just have a couple of questions. More for me, just kind of curious to what is, because obviously we have a study to have a study to have a study. I was just kind of curious to when can we put a shovel? When would they put a shovel in the ground? When would, like, what is your first, what are you looking to do, the bridge first, and then where are you moving in your development? What are you pushing the hardest to get accomplished? Because my question, because I think a lot of people, obviously you have that light rail station there, that's great. And the one thing that I know about the area as well is the trip capacity. So you have to get that trip capacity up to get more development. And so I think that's the thing that maybe people aren't fully understanding, is without increasing that trip count, you're not going to get that development. I like to use a little bit of my example. We're actually working with Chris a little bit on a development there on Alati Street. And we've had developers that have walked away from ours because of the trip capacity. So we've kind of tamed down our what we were going to build. So I just want to know, like, when you guys, and I'm being a resident of Sunnyside and having other things going on over there and living in the area, just like, when do you guys actually think this is going to be shoveled to ground, and when can other developers follow your lead? Because I would love, the biggest thing I would absolutely love is to have have that light rail station there be the center of where everyone gets to every place in Fox Island, because I think it can be such an amazing place to live and work. So I guess that's my question to the team.
Well, Garrett, let me just answer that one on my side. We're starting demolition of the southern facility in December, and we're starting our infrastructure for phase 1 in the first trimester of 2022. That's development speaking. Our trips, we already have our trips locked, and I'll let Kathleen get into that issue, or Chris, because I don't know exactly, but I think we have our trips locked for phase 1 and some of phase 2. And then to unlock the subsequent trips are the necessity of these improvements, the 38th Avenue, Fox Street cluster, the 44th Avenue Bridge. And those are the things that are going to be unlocking more trips for this development. Each other developer in the area will be having these circumstances under their trip agreement, and the final stages is where the trips are necessary. For the final stages is when the northern connection comes to be. But right now, as a developer, we have the necessary trips to start our phase 1 and some of our phase 2, and you will start seeing movement on the ground on the post facility, which is Fox Park, beginning of the next quarter.
So let me add on into that. So as Jose was saying, we already have enough trips to deliver our first phase of the project. As I was mentioning on the first slides, this is a 4-phase development, and it's thought for a 10-year period. So for the second and third phases, we have to construct the 38th Avenue improvement, which are the roundabouts on the south of the island. And that would unlock the trips necessary to develop phase 2 and 3. In order to deliver phase 4, we have to deliver a full modal connection. And as I was saying, that full modal connection could either be the bridge, the tunnel, or the Huron overpass. And that's going to be decided after the feasibility and community process.
Is there one that's preferable than another?
We as developers are indifferent on each improvement. The city would be the one that it's deciding after reviewing all of the parameters.
So that's a great segue to your question, Bill. You're on mute. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
There are a couple people in the chat that are asking about what trips are. Could somebody give a quick 1-minute definition of trips and how it relates to the development? I would try to do it myself, but I'm sure somebody else can do it better.
Kathleen, I think that's you.
Kathleen or Chris Nevitt.
Chris, do you want to field that? I think you're the keeper of the trips.
Sure, I'm gonna try to do it in 60 seconds. So basically the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure, and really what we're talking about is vehicle trips. The transportation infrastructure has a certain capacity to it, and development creates a certain demand for it. We don't want that to get too far out of equilibrium. And so we're limiting the number of trips that new development, trip demand that new development can impose on the system without creating new capacity for managing those trips. And so with the new capacity that particularly this project is going to construct, we're also making sure that that new capacity is as multimodal as possible. So not only are we accommodating the vehicle trips that will be created, we're also helping facilitate the transformation of vehicle trips into pedestrian trips and bicycle trips and transit trips. But that's the trips. It's an equilibrium between the trip capacity of existing infrastructure versus the trip demand created by new development. Hopefully that's at least moderately sensible. Was that helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. Unless anyone who was asking questions has any follow-up questions just specific to the trips. If not, we can move on. There's quite a few questions out there, and we, believe it or not, are down to 8 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But we can organize many more of these meetings. This is just the first one, and as Bill was saying, this is a restart, and we can organize another one anytime you tell us one.
We need to do that, and we also have to have some meetings where we specifically talk about a game plan for community outreach, and that is the entire topic. We need to have that conversation, and when we do, which Bill and I will reach out to you, Manuel, we need to understand who it is from the city that we need to talk to and needs to be in attendance at those meetings. Because I am unclear on that. Maybe somebody else can fill me in as a bit more clear on that, but I need to know who do we need to invite and make sure is there from the city side for these town halls, for input on the flyers that go, everything.
Hey, James,
So-
this is Tripti.
Go ahead, Trupti.
Yeah, so that one question I have is just around timing, and it was, kind of related to Garrett's, but more importantly, as we talk about the phase 4, where one of these northern connection needs to be made, what's the timeline between now to phase 4, or even between now and the decision for one of those? What are we looking at? A year, 2 years? Or just give me your, your best guess as of right now.
No, the phase 4 is projected to be starting construction in around 5 to 7 years.
Okay, but as far as, okay, go ahead.
The decision that the city is making has to happen. Chris, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 6-month period process.
Yeah, we want to know what we're doing fairly quickly. So, the community participation process, the feasibility analysis, so that we get to an understanding of what's possible and what's not, and then make a decision as to what it is we're going to construct. I think we want to do that inside of a year, and to actually have a design inside of 2 years. These are very rough numbers.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that we can plan for it. And then, both the 47th Avenue Bridge and the Northern Tunnel, they're complicated. They involve a lot of, for the tunnel, there's environmental issues, there's railroad issues, there's CDOT issues. For the bridge, there's not so much environmental issues, but there's certainly railroad issues and RTD issues, and a lot needs to get worked out. So it's a multi-year process to actually get to construction. But I think inside of 2 years, we'll have a very clear idea of what it is we're doing so that people can count on what's going to happen.
Thank you. And James,
James,
just so we know this for future, as we're talking about some of the items, like obviously this community outreach is one, but specifically what is and is not included in this feasibility study is something else we want to be very clear about. We want to make sure we understand and that it's thorough and all that, but also just for us to understand what's included. We don't need to talk about it now, but as a follow-up, I want to make sure we get to that.
That's a great point, Troop D.
and some of the things that we mentioned in our development agreement are geographic scope, budget, timeline, process for design, opinion of related parties such as CDOT and the railroads, and as well as other contingencies. I wanted to answer a thing that I'm reading in the chats that we didn't mention, and it's really important. This bridge, it's envisioned to be a 2-lane bridge with a 20 mile per hour speed limit. So Chris can talk more about it, but it's not thought to be another way of I-70. If I'm explaining myself, maybe you can explain it better, Chris.
Oh, that's right, and it's in the next step study. You know, going all the way back to the station area plan. This is perceived as a high density, mixed use, mixed income, transit oriented development, and so hence very walkable, bikeable, not highly car oriented, although there will certainly be cars, as there always are, and so all the connections, with the one exception of the existing Fox Street connection, all the connections are meant to be low speed, highly bike and pedestrian comfortable connections. So the 44th Avenue Bridge, you know, we have a pretty big bridge that goes over I-25, but our commitment there is that no, that's going to stay just a 2-lane bridge, and all the expansion, all the improvements to that cross section are going to be for bikes and peds. Same thing with the 47th Avenue Bridge or the Northern Tunnel. That's going to be just 2 lanes, you know, 25 miles an hour with a very large bike and ped component to it. Same thing with the Huron Street Bridge, the bridge that goes on the Huron alignment and crosses over 38th Avenue. That too, just 2 lanes, slow speed, large bike ped facility. So, you know, it would be inconsistent with everything that we've done with respect to this area to try to create some sort of, you know, high volume, high speed arterial street. That would be the opposite of everything that we've worked for.
James, could I add something?
I'm going to speak for James. Go ahead, Keith.
I did listen to the part of the planning board discussion of this, and of course the planning board is extremely constrained in what their power is. They can only say, yes, this is consistent with existing plans, or it isn't. And after the planning board act, which it did act on the 20th of October, this heads to the council. This seems like the council might be able to take action which would preempt a certain amount or much of the very encouraging community input which we're talking about this evening. I would I would ask Tripty and any other people connected to the council to perhaps delay action on the planning board's recommendation at this point, because it isn't obvious or isn't clear to me that the actual inherent assets of the Fox Island area, if I may call it that, in terms of as a site for residential development, you say 33,360 new dwellings, and how many, as opposed to as a concentrated employment area, where commuter rail works best for people commuting to work. So people could get to Fox Island by rail, but live somewhere else. There's a lot to be said for that use of this land. And although I'm very encouraged about the development that's being proposed, I just think perhaps the balance needs to be discussed. And I hope that can happen in these future meetings. Thanks.
Hey, Keith, thank you. You did mention something, and I do want to bring this up, and I know we're out of time, so it might be a follow-up. But on this TIF hearing, the planning board, there were people trying to get this information that were just not responded to. And at this point, we missed the opportunity as citizens to address the planning board, and now it's going to council. I don't know whether any of this could be delayed, but that was just, a terrible oversight for folks who are really interested in understanding, that whole TIF process.
Hey, I can just add that this is Naomi Grunditz, and Councilman Sandoval is listening in today as well. So I just wanted to clarify that this particular project that we're discussing right now isn't what's being voted on. It is the TIF. It's the creation of the boundary and the establishment of the criteria for creating a TIF. So it's obviously involved and is necessary for this to move forward, but it is a little bit different. And so I'm not quite sure if first of all, there also still is opportunity to weigh in at the public hearing, and I would really recommend everyone do that, because planning board actually, it's just advisory, so it is actually even more important for anyone who wants to become familiar with this to actually attend the full council hearing, because that's the decision-making point there.
May I reply to Naomi? Naomi, thank you for putting the link to that planning board hearing. So I was able to see some of it. I must say it is not a system that works perfectly. It was very difficult to find. And,
I agree with that. Yeah.
And I won't go on about this, but obviously these are other meetings which we really need to hold them in person now. We just have to face it. Okay, end of harangue on that.
It's good to hear you say that, Keith. We look forward to seeing your face, and we will try and get them in person. Naomi, on what is being voted on, does it have a dollar amount on the TIF, or is it a blank check?
There is dollar amounts on the TIF. I do not feel comfortable speaking to the details of it. So if there's anyone else that could.
So that is one of the connections here,
Yes.
because based on the amount that is approved on the TIF will definitely impact the feasibility of a bridge versus a tunnel, because a bridge is considerably more expensive. So they are connected. You're saying, well, it is a little bit, right, Chris? I mean, so it does depend somewhat on what is the amount that's approved. Okay, so
over.
Yep, this was great conversation, and we're gonna have to pick it up again. Thank you so much. Flossie, I know you asked a question. We'll make sure to get it on the next meeting, but I do want to hold it to as tight to 7 o'clock as we possibly can. So we will schedule another one of these as soon as possible. This is very informative. There's still a lot of questions out there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. The last thing I'll just say is next time, if if the presenters could provide us with a slide that'll actually show and put in the detail, the size and scope. It was somewhat hard, at least for myself, to follow all those numbers. That'd be helpful to see the number of units, how many are ownership versus rental, and so forth, the number of phases. I'd like to hear some concrete ideas for eco passes and other incentives to utilize public transportation. And then I think we have to understand a little bit better what are the elements that'll go into that feasibility study.
And please, anybody that has questions or input, suggestions for the next meeting, topics you want to make sure we cover, questions that need to be put in front of the city and Fox Park so that they can prepare, please email those to James or I.
Thank you for participating, and I hope this is a good step and you realize our intentions and our collaboration is there for everybody to see. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
all, and good night.
Thanks, folks. Bye.